Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Second half of the program begins right now. Can't think of a better way, right, to get things started than talking to always positive, super upbeat,
absolutely,
Danny Clinkscale. Brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. By the way, I'll tell you about how you could be going to the Chiefs game here in a second. But first of all, I will tell you, Easton Roofing, of course, where integrity it matters. Danny and I have talked a lot as Easton Roofing, fine sponsor of Danny Unleashed, about how great they are as Easton Roofing has repaired both of our roofs. Joe and his great team do a phenomenal job. Voted Best of Houses Award winner, Angie's List Super Service Award winner, project manager on-site, commercial, residential. They do it all. Credit cards and PayPal accepted. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. You can call them today at 913-257-5426 or see them online at eastonroofing.com. But I will say that if you're not just looking for a roof, if you're looking for roofing employment, a great spot as well, as Easton Roofing is now hiring. They are expanding.
They are indeed. And
they are hiring pretty much just about, seems like, all positions based upon the information you and I were given, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything from on the roof, sales. They need just about everything. So if you're in the roofing business and you'd like to work for a great company, 401k, year-round work, even in the winter, which I know in that industry, that is something that is very, very unique. You can find it right now at Easton Roofing. Go to eastonroofing.com, and you can see all the contact information and everything there.
Just an example of what kind of a quality place it is to work.
Yes, I know what you're going to talk about.
Big group to opening day every year. None of their employees has ever missed an opening day. So for the Kansas City Royals, that's pretty sweet.
That is really sweet. I don't think it gets much better than that. If you know you're going to go to opening day, what else could you ask for?
I have never heard of anything remotely like that. That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. So, think of how people talk about opening day tickets and, I got to get in line for them and everything. Well, I get a job and I know I'm going to opening day.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Great place to work. So if you are in the roofing business and you are looking for an opportunity to work for a great Kansas City company, locally owned and operated, Joe and his team do a phenomenal job, and they would love for you to be a part of their team. So find them online at eastonroofing.com. You're not going to find a better place to work, I'll be honest with you. Joe's such a great guy, takes such great care of all the folks in his charge, and is a company that's growing. It's a great Kansas City company, a great success story, and a chance to be a part of a great company. So I would certainly highly recommend you get in touch with the folks. Go to eastonroofing.com, as they are quite unique. Joe, a guy that has been on the roofs.
Absolutely.
Roofs? Is it roofs?
He's been
like hooves?
He's been a roofing man for quite a while, and eventually
but I think the fact that he's
branch out into his own company.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he's been there makes him realize how to treat people.
That's right. He's been the guy on the roof, on the front line, and worked his way all the way through the industry. So if you would like a great place to work and work for a guy who understands exactly what goes into the job, a lot of times that's unique in today's day and age. So contact them at eastonroofing.com, and we congratulate Easton for their continued success and the expanding that is going on, hence all the hiring that is going on. So
it's a decision you have to make, whether you're so successful that you have a lot of business, and are you going to pull the trigger and expand? And clearly they are doing that.
Yeah.
And more and more people will get to benefit for the fine services at Easton Roofing.
Yes. All right, Danny, where do you want to start? You want to start Chiefs, or do you want to start basketball, local hoops?
Because we just heard from Timmy for a while, so why don't we do the Chiefs coming up a
little bit later?
Give it a little breather. Give it a little breather there. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes. Is this Kansas team? I mentioned this. I'm going to talk about it with Gary Parrish, get his thoughts. Because I've kind of looked at them and been like, they just don't shoot well enough to win. This looks like a Kansas team that's going to have another great regular season, probably win the regular season title again in the Big 12. be a super high seed, and absolutely be a threat to win it all, but I don't know that they don't shoot enough. And if they don't shoot enough, then they probably get upset along the way from somebody who does shoot well and gets hot on a night. That's what I thought until I went through the KenPom.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that.
And
earlier.
I grinded through the numbers. And if you didn't hear the first segment, the best offensive team this year in KenPom has a 115.7. Don't worry about what the 115.7 means. But you take that number, and if you put it into every year that KenPom's been in existence since 2002, all right, the highest that would rank in any previous season for offensive efficiency is 2003. Now, I don't know that offenses don't get more efficient. I tend to believe that they would get less efficient because they play better defense, right? You're playing conference games. You don't get 3 in a row against number 325
Yeah,
and
your
number
numbers,
165.
I would think, almost naturally would go down.
Right. I would think defensive numbers, all efficiency numbers would go down because you're facing better competition. But I don't know. I'll watch it and see. So, and the arc has been moved back. No one's really talked about that in college basketball because they didn't move it back that far. But every inch does matter, just like on field goals
They
in the
moved
NFL.
it back a reasonably decent amount.
Yeah,
a couple of feet.
But nobody's talking about it.
Well, I think I talked about it one of the times I was here. And
When I say nobody, I mean outside of this pocket of brilliance.
Little bit of genius right
yes,
here.
when with the Danny Unleashed. And so
I think the distance.
Can a defensive-minded team, because that's what they are. They run good offense, but they're not going to pound the three. Can a team that doesn't shoot and focuses on defense like this, is this the perfect year for Kansas to win the title?
Since it's a year of transition, and as I heard you talk about earlier, maybe some other teams haven't adjusted to the fact that merely moving back a couple of feet further and still letting it fly as often is maybe not necessarily a good plan. I would say that can't be a negative for Kansas, certainly. Whether it can be a strong positive, I'm not certain. I do have mixed feelings about when I view Kansas. I think that it looks to me like they're going to get better because I don't think they've played as well as they can so far, and they've had several ragged games that they've won. That's the reason they're still in the top 2 or 3 in the country. But they played a pretty ugly game against Stanford. They played a pretty ugly, at least first half, against West Virginia. If they won those games, is that the way they're going to have to win? Maybe you're onto something of the fact that lesser offense can only help them because they seem like they are attuned to having more than the occasional 3 for 17 night from point land, which is what they had the other day, and that's just tough to overcome. It is. Because even if the other team just tosses in 8, which isn't a lot, you're outscored by 15 points from the 3-point line. So they've played enough quote-unquote bad games so far, particularly offensively, that I think you could look at it and say, well, maybe that's what they are. But also,
that's what they are, and that's how it's going to end with a bad day offensively. Or do you look at it and say, if they get better, their 2 losses, and let's throw in the Dayton win in overtime, right? Those are their 3 tight games. They didn't get blown out. They got grossly outshot from the perimeter at Villanova, with Garrett going down playing just 13 minutes, and they turned the ball over 26 times against Duke, and they were in range against Duke.
Right.
And they were toe-to-toe with Villanova.
Absolutely. And, they didn't look good at all against West Virginia, and that game ended up being pretty close down to the finish. I mean, West Virginia was within 3 with 2 minutes to go, even though they had pulled to within 3.
Right.
It wasn't like that.
After jumping out in front of them.
All game long. They're up by, West Virginia was up by 10 and could have extended, but they just stopped scoring, and that's to Kansas's credit. Kansas's 3-point defense has been very good, so maybe Bill Self is on to something there.
They're number 2 in KenPom defensive efficiency.
And so that's why I think anytime you're talking about a sort of a grinding, toughness-based, offensively challenged at times by their standards team, they're hard to judge. They are hard to judge because that's a prescription for losing more games than the opposite. A freewheeling scoring team, is generally going to play more games where it's just going to be easy pickings. and the night's going to be easy. They're going to win 90-64, and everything's going to be just a breeze from start to finish. If you're routinely going out and scoring 68 or 72 or 60 points, that just lends itself to close games. You can lose close games. So I'm in a bit of a quandary about the Kansas team. My general feeling is that they will improve, and they're always going to win at least a reasonable amount of games. And by reasonable, I mean close to 30 for them. But I can see more downside than maybe I ordinarily do with Kansas, I guess.
That's how I was feeling. I felt more optimistic when I went through those numbers. And I'm like, okay, I think everybody, because their offensive efficiency number, by the way, is 14th. Their defensive efficiency is 2.
Yeah, those are pretty solid numbers.
I mean, around them, the teams that look like they're well balanced.
I think the 14, however, it seems to me like when they've played actual real competition, that's where the offensive problems have occurred. And the easy games, the ones that I think maybe prop up the 14, are the ones against decidedly lesser opposition, where especially like Udoka Azubuike just has a complete field day. Guys they get ahead. The 3-point shooters are feeling a little more freewheeling. So I think that 14 is a little inflated by the fact that in the non-con you're going to play some not so great teams, although they schedule well.
So here are the teams that are top 15 in both, which Kansas is, right? We'll take 15. Give it just a little bit further than Kansas. They're 14th in offense, second in defense. Duke, who's ranked 1 in the Ken Pom, Kansas is ranked 1 overall, is number 5 in adjusted offense, number 3 in adjusted defense. Kansas, 14 in offense, 2 in defense. Then you jump down. You got to go all the way down to Louisville at 6. Is 15 in offense, 15 in defense. And that's it.
You know, one thing that just popped into my head while you were talking about those stats. However,
Can I give you 2 other fun ones real quick?
Go right ahead.
West Virginia, 4th in adjusted defense, 66 in offense.
Oh, that sounds
but they are the Harlem Globetrotters on offense, or the Golden State Warriors of recent ilk compared to Virginia. Do you know what Virginia's splits are this year?
Oh, how about 1 and 85?
1 and 185.
Wow. They've
185 offensively, but now, and you're like, well, that's how they always play. What do you think they were last year en route to winning the championship?
Well, I bet they were fairly, you could be efficient and still low scoring. So
Okay.
I would say they were 11th.
In offense?
Yeah.
And what in defense?
1.
They were 2nd in offense and 5th in defense.
Wow. That's mighty impressive. That adds, that sounds like a national championship number.
It does. It really does. Kansas isn't that far out. I guess based on that, we'd say Duke is going to win.
But what I thought of when you were talking about, you're saying, hey, and here's Kansas and here's Louisville, and thinking to myself, all we're talking about right now is basketball. Basketball on the court. Louisville back near the top. Everything's rosy. Kansas, nary a whisper of anything that's going on. Just playing basketball. Can they shoot it well enough? Just seems like maybe the other shoe is never going to drop. I don't know. It's almost like things are.
I think it is.
I think it probably is too. But for the moment, I think it's a delightful, out of sight, out of mind moment.
I do think that.
I mean, especially including Louisville in that. It's like, well, easy peasy, nothing happened. We can just wave goodbye or forget about the sordid 5 years of our program.
I think the time on the mat that Kansas will spend will be 1 year. Now, if they get 2 years, then it'll be 2. But right after that, as soon as they get into the last year, they're going to be out of the tournament, they will rocket to the top of the recruiting. Because they will be coming off a year that probably their recruiting was down, and every freshman will be like, I play right away, I get all my minutes. Boom. They'll have a monster recruiting class going during the year, whatever the last year is. If it's 1, it's that year. And then so they will start the following year with a tremendous freshman class.
So you are of the feeling that they are pretty sure to get a year, at least.
Out of the tournament?
Out of a tournament.
I have no idea whatsoever. None whatsoever. I've never been in an investigation. I've never been around it. I'm not privy to any inside information. I will try. I will attempt to get some information. But that means to me you've got to get into the NCAA. That's a tough nut to crack. What I know is I've taken a consensus of what I think are accomplished people that cover college basketball, and there seems to be a consensus amongst them, which I don't think they know anything either, that they're going to spend a year out. But if they got 5 years out, I'd be stunned. If they get 3 years out, I'll be surprised. If they get 2 years out, I won't be surprised. 1 out, I won't be surprised. And none out, I will not be surprised.
I think that's a...
And I don't think anybody knows. And I don't think even the NCAA knows right now. And it's not about they've got more work to do. I think they don't know what the hell to do with this situation.
Right. That's why the longer we just kind of breeze along with nobody coming up with a new story. Now, I think one thing we know and what we've seen in the past is that tournament time is when journalistic enterprises like to drop the bomb. Because everybody's paying attention to college basketball. That's a little cynical way to look at it, but that's what's happened previously. So, anyway, that's just a little side thought while we were just breezily talking about basketball statistics.
I was asked this by Mick Schaefer. I thought it was a good question on Sunday Sound Off. Who's more likely to turn their season into a tournament year, Missouri or K-State?
Right now, I'm kind of feeling the none of the above vibe. I think this was. I think
one of them were.
I would pick K-State.
See, I picked Missouri off the ease of schedule. There's nobody lower than 67 or 68. Texas is the lowest team left on K-State's schedule, and they play them twice. Missouri has 4 teams above 100 and 2 more above 90.
Well, that's good research. I hadn't gotten into it that deep.
I'd say, that's not fair to.
That deeply. I'm not. I don't feel undercut in any way.
Okay, thanks.
I think what's ironic is the fact that not by the poll, because in the coaches' poll, Kansas State was picked for 9th, I believe, weren't they? Is that right? Or am I thinking of football?
They were picked way down there. I don't know who would have been last.
Anyway,
were they picked last?
Yeah, but I can't remember. Mary Curtis can look it up.
We always know that when they're low, Bruce Weber's usually 3 spots up.
Right, but
when he's high, he's usually 3 spots down.
That's what I was getting to, is the fact that I think this, for us in this area, finally, I think there was a feeling that, hey, they got picked way down there, but, we've seen this before, and Bruce Weber's kind of got this figured out, and when there are no expectations for his squad, he pieces it together and they rise up. I don't know if that's going to happen this time around. They seem to have a lot of challenges, both from just the actual basketball standpoint, and when a coach is repeatedly and continually, and he's pretty open about, he's sort of an open book about stuff. We need better leadership. We need some guys can't step up. But, it almost sounds like this is almost code for, God, I don't like this team.
Right.
Which, many basketball coaches get to the end of a year, and this is like a dirty little secret. Like, I can't wait for these guys to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm tired of messing with them. But I will say this, on this team, he's got lots of young guys that are supposed to be part of the future.
Right. Yep. And he even...
And he had that with the Marcus Foster team, and he gutted them.
For the people
and
who...
started it over and got a great class. So if he goes down that road, it doesn't mean it's over at K-State by any stretch of the imagination.
For the people who have fun at the expense of Bruce Weber, he did pull out another one the other day, and he just can't help himself. He just can't help himself. After the game, he said, we went down the stretch. It was another game we had we had a chance to win, and that's happened over and over again. We were playing some young guys.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Bruce, don't do it.
You hate the young guy thing, and I'm with you 100%. Coaches play that card all the time. But this is a young team for him.
It is, but and until Saturday, this was the case.
It's a lot more legit than other times he has said it.
Until Saturday, one of the real issues had been that in the games that they had lost, Xavier Sneed had been pretty bad. And he was good in the game the other day, but he got in foul trouble. And then, of course, there was the issue of Lon Kruger left the guy with 4 fouls in the game, and he killed him. Bruce Weber kept Xavier Sneed out of the game, and they lost.
It's the single. It's the only thing I can look at Bruce Weber and say, He's absolutely 100% wrong.
I agree.
And I don't care how many people want to line up, whether you're a coach or whatever. You're just wrong. You're just like, you're telling me this forward pass thing isn't going to stick around in the NFL.
Right.
You are absolutely, categorically, mathematically wrong to be sitting these guys. You want to bring them over for a chat. Fine. Remember, we got to be smart. Don't do this.
Right.
Remember our scouting report, this guy draws a lot of fouls doing this. Reprep
you just
and then
wonder,
get him back in the game and don't miss minutes.
You just wonder.
He killed him in the tournament doing it.
You just wonder, and he by rote sits guys when they get 2 fouls until halftime. He does it, and almost
because Gene Katie did it,
almost without exception,
which is the dumbest thing. The dumbest reason you can do something, because we always have. Yeah, but what was the reason? Well, I don't know. That's just how we've always done it. Then examine it and find out if what you're doing is right.
The only thing that popped into my head that was the justification is that he isn't just doing it to prevent them from getting the 3rd foul. He's doing it to show his players, you just can't get a 2nd foul, okay? Learn, no 2nd foul. Not really the strategy of it. I don't think this is the case, but maybe that's part of his thought, is that I got to teach these guys that picking up a 2nd foul is just bad
and
business.
I might lose a game here to win the big war later.
Right, exactly.
Except for he did it in the NCAA tournament.
I know.
Which would be the time to
agree
throw
with
it
it
out the window.
I think if a guy commits 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes, and then you set him for 16, and then he picks up a quick 3rd and 4th, and in the end he ends up playing 11 minutes in the game, it's stupid.
It doesn't foul out.
And it's just stupid.
That's my thing. He has to foul out or you screwed up.
Right.
I don't care if he goes for 38 in 19 minutes. If you lose by 1 and he didn't foul out, he could have played 20.
Right.
21, 20. You don't know.
And
let him foul out.
And the quote from Lon Kruger was just kind of damning in the situation, because obviously he was the winning coach and Weber was the losing coach. He just said, well, the guy's played a lot of basketball. I just talked to him real quick and said, you got to know not to reach and commit the dumb foul, and maybe the zone helped him out a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Well, that guy destroyed them down the stretch.
Let me make a quick analogy, and then we'll go to what Curtis says. This is how I'll put it to you. It's like being on a boat, and it's the old days. No, we're using the stars to get there. It's a sailing ship, and we've only got so much food, and we're rationing it out. And then a guy eats a little too much. He's the guy that actually can row the boat. And he eats a little too much. So we're going to teach him a lesson. And then we all, because we don't want to run out of food, we starve to death with food still on the boat.
That's a good analogy.
Because we're rationing it out for if we live another month. No. You can't die with food left on the boat. You've got to consume the food to keep giving yourself the best effort. When you don't play your star player because he's got fouls, you're dying looking at more food.
Right.
There were more minutes, more plays that quality players could have played. It drives me insane.
It drives me insane too, especially the 4th in the second half with a considerable amount of time left.
You have no choice.
You can't.
If you're up 16,
right,
fine,
whatever. But don't wait until you're up by 4. Wait till you're up by 9.
Yes.
Now I'm hungry. K-State was 9th in the preseason poll. TCU 10th.
A nice symmetry with the football
Which,
team.
by
It's
the
also
way,
9th.
Real quick, and we'll take a break. Is there a guy who maybe should have restarted the shot clock at UCLA, coaching down in Fort Worth?
There would be evidence that might be the case.
I mean, if he doesn't have a year, at what point do they start saying,
And then at one point do you start saying you can't win in basketball at TCU, which there should be no real excuse.
Particularly when the other Bible-thumping school, for lack of a better term, right? Baylor is in the top 5.
Right.
You're in some trouble.
Yes, no doubt about that.
They got to win.
You could just say private school.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If those predictions end up being right,
right?
Like you can't be like, we're a private school against state schools.
Right.
It's in Texas. Baylor's number 4.
Right. And
everyone thinks that guy's an idiot.
And you're in the Metroplex, and he's in Waco.
Yeah.
So
we'll take a break. More Danny Clinkscale. It's Danny Unleashed here in the program.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Since 1970, what team has hosted the most divisional playoff games? The number is 16.
I need to repeat. I was too busy laughing.
At him laughing at you.
Right.
Since 1970, what team has hosted the most divisional playoff games? 16. I'll give you a hint. The number will grow this weekend.
Hosted the most divisional playoff games since what year?
Since 1970.
So it probably shouldn't be the Ravens.
Correct.
Then it's got to be over in the NFC because it sure as hell ain't the Chiefs.
Nope.
Well, maybe they just piled them up
Packers.
early. So
Packers.
how about the 49ers?
49ers.
Huh?
16.
They must have done all their damage in one stretch.
All of them at Candlestick Park, by the way.
Yes.
There's the answer to your question. Yes.
Real quick from a K-State fan, I got this. What's this guy's name again? The actor.
That's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman in. Was it Something About Mary, where he was buddies with, or was it? No, Along Came Polly. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, yeah.
Remember with I'm so bad with names. It's so terrible.
I didn't see that movie. So
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller. He's Ben Stiller's buddy, and they go out to the blacktop in New York, and they're going to play ball, and they're going to play 2-on-2, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, "Let it rain," and just airball, brick, that's the gift he sent me. He's a K-State guy.
Nice.
That's the gift he sent me for what K-State basketball
the
is right
gift
now.
that keeps on giving.
It is. All right, let's switch gears, talk some football, Danny. Any fear? Do you have any fear of the Texans in this game? Because I do not.
I probably have a little more fear than most people around here do, but that would only make it about this much fear. It's a playoff game. They're a capable team. They probably feel a little freed up by the fact that they didn't choke on their own vomit again in a home playoff game, got through it, and can play with some freedom. But if they don't run the football and slow the Chiefs down early, they're doomed. And I think if they don't decide to throw caution to the wind and run Deshaun Watson more than they're likely comfortable doing as part of that running package, then I don't think they have much of a chance, and I don't even know if they have much of a chance if they do that. But I think that the general sentiment...
Is it just the return of personnel for the Chiefs that gives you the confidence?
Well, certainly the Chiefs are a very healthy football team right now, and they're better than the Texans anyway. But the only thing that I think that the general feeling around here is that the Chiefs are playing the Washington Generals this weekend, and I'm not to that.
I'm not there
I'm
either.
not at that level.
Maybe I'm making it sound that way.
And I think that's generally what I'm hearing. We're all healthy now. I got all these back. Forget about that loss back in there. This guy wasn't here. This guy wasn't here. We're better. Spags has got it figured out. I mean, the litany of positives and things to make you feel joyous is just spewing out of people like, vomit in The Exorcist. So that's the only thing that concerns me. And in any way is just, this is like nobody thinks there's no fear factor among the fan base. And
which
fans,
is weird.
Fans are generally a
guys.
nervous lot.
Especially Chiefs fans in the playoffs.
And
See,
they
I
lost to this team.
I haven't heard it quite the same because we had people last week, who do you not want to see? And there were a number of people that said the Texans are the team that scares them because they can run the ball, well, not as well as the Titans. Everybody fears Deshaun Watson more. And that oh boy, he's a dynamic quarterback. I don't think he is.
I don't think he played to that level this year. He makes the spectacular play, but even that spectacular play, they just should have tackled him. I mean, come on. You're an NFL player. Two guys hit him. So could you consider using your arms? Yeah. Are you the knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
And if there isn't an uncovered receiver standing there 10 yards away, that big play may have all been for nothing.
Right. And it was an amazing play, and he could have just crumbled to the ground, certainly, and some quarterbacks would have. But if you just look at his numbers, he's 26 and 12, I believe. There's nothing spectacular about that. Yeah, in the running element, certainly that adds to it and adds to the danger factor. I would say that Deshaun Watson emulates the danger factor in this game. He's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He shouldn't provide that much of a worry for them, but he is capable of the spectacular. He's kind of a microcosm of the Texans. They're just not that good, but they're good enough that, given things going their way, and the thing we don't really know is that if a team can, by the flow of the game, decide to run the football, can they still do that? We haven't seen it in the last few weeks, but hardly anybody has been capable of trying, and the Chiefs have returned to the model that they used much of last year and early this season, which is to get ahead in the game so substantially that the running game becomes completely irrelevant, and you just don't even get to find out. And so that's the only minor flies in the ointment I'll toss in there, but I think the ointment is going to be pretty nice this weekend. I will be very surprised.
And it will be a disaster, correct?
Absolute. In utter, unmitigated disaster. I will be surprised if, with 10 minutes to go, the Chiefs are really sweating it at all.
All right, here's the team. I'll give you a team that I think this one could be emulating. There's some similarities. There are others, but just the kind of year that they were having and then what the end result ended up being. And that would be the 1988 San Francisco 49ers. 10-6 regular season. Okay. After a 13-2 season. They were really good the year before.
Got upset in the divisional playoffs by the Vikings.
By the Vikings in 87. Then came back, had a 10-6 year. Chiefs have had a 12-4 year, so that's not necessarily a good parallel. But they then flipped a switch in the postseason and blew everyone's doors off. And they went into the Super Bowl against a Bengals team that was either 13-3 or 12-4. Okay, so they were 2 games better than them in the regular season, and they were doing the no huddle. They were like the first team even before the Bills got going with the no huddle. They were doing it with Boomer Esiason and Chris Collinsworth, and they had another wideout that was like really good. I forget who would come along. And they had Ickey Woods,
Eddie Brown,
and James Brooks. Yeah, Eddie Brown.
They were the number one offense in the NFL.
They were the number one offense in the NFL, and the 49ers hammered them. And the 49ers were big favorites going into the game.
They didn't hammer them in that game.
Yeah, that was
a John Taylor cut.
You're right.
They beat them.
They beat them.
Right.
But they were favored in the game.
Yes.
As 10-6.
Because they had come off 28-3 over the Bears. They beat the Vikings by 25 points. They rolled their 2 playoff opponents.
And they were the favorite and then won the Super Bowl. I kind of feel like that's what's going on with the Chiefs. I think they've gone through injuries and adversity, and really it's been all about next week. So if they're going to get stung, that would be my fear, is that they're ready to play the AFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl, and they got to go through this team first, and they screw it up. So there's my fear of where it is. I think that's what you're talking about, how nobody fears it. But I feel like when they get to next week, they may very well unhinge the Ravens and storm into the Super Bowl.
I would be very much more surprised if the scenario was that they struggled and or lost this game rather than we looked back and said, oh, my God, they just killed everyone. They just clicked it in. And because now, if you're looking to win the Super Bowl, which is what the ultimate goal is, yes, reaching the Super Bowl would be great because the Chiefs haven't done it in forever and a day. But last week was good too. The Saints are good. They lost. To me, there's only the Niners are really the only big giant stumbling block left there, I think. Vikings defense is salty, but are you going to get good Kirk Cousins on that?
Are you going to get good Jimmy
not.
Garoppolo? I actually like the Vikings in the points because I don't think there's much difference between the two quarterbacks.
Oh, I agree with that, but I do think that overall the Niners are a better team. But all I'm saying is I think the Saints were probably the best team, and they're gone. So a lot of good things are happening for the Chiefs in addition to the fact that I think they're a good football team. Their injuries came in the middle of the season. You can get Andy Reid up there saying, it's so funny. I was at a function this morning, and the guy said, the Chiefs are completely healthy. They've got all their guys. And then another guy said, well, Juan Thornhill's out. And he said, but Andy said yesterday that they had all hands on deck. And
all active players.
Which is true. All the guys that are actually capable of getting on the football field. But that's a good thing. I mean, the Chiefs had good personnel, and they're available and ready to roll. So just a tiny bit more trepidation than the general fan base. That's all I'll say. Tiny bit.
But last year they had to beat Andrew Luck and Tom Brady, albeit at the end. I mean, for all his greatness this season, he's likely going to be the MVP. Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, the two quarterbacks that stand the Chiefs' way. That's an eminently beatable pair.
Yeah, I think
Jackson only by reputation. By season, he's been pretty damn.
But they'll have the best quarterback in probably.
They will have the better quarterback.
Either of those two games, regardless of who they play.
No doubt about that.
I mean, I'm fine with Lamar Jackson getting the MVP. It's been a brilliant season, but I think he's been as much a part of a system that's gotten up and running as it's been. I was talking to somebody.
That's the system you have to play, though.
It is. Right. It is. But at some point during the 3 games he's got to play, I think they're going to be behind. And that's what we haven't seen them do. When we saw them do it, they lost to the Browns and the Chiefs. They did not come back and get it done. Now, listen, that's a high bar asking somebody to go 16-0. They've won 11 in a row. If you're talking about the Chiefs getting better, well, why can't the Ravens get better? True. All of that true. They had a tough schedule, and they beat them all. All true. But if you get them down, I think they're out.
Yeah, if you get them down.
Because he doesn't just drop back and throw. Right. If you take the run away,
get them
it's
down,
over.
down. I mean, if you're talking about a one-score game all along and they're down, I don't think that matters. And you don't panic. And I think they panicked against the Chiefs.
I do too.
You don't have to. If it's the middle of the second quarter and you're down by 10, just play your game.
It's one of the reasons what I like about, and like I said, I'm more afraid of the Texans, whatever my level of fear was after hearing Bill O'Brien than before, because I think he had good answers and I liked what he had to say, and he didn't panic against the Bills. And I think the Ravens have panicked when they've gotten down, or maybe it's they're not over there, but then Jackson's panicking. Somebody's panicking because it doesn't go well.
Or maybe he saw
down.
What happened when they decided to get away from their game plan. Maybe that wasn't really his idea. Although I think he's pretty much behind the offense, O'Brien. But yes, maybe they just learned their lesson in the game against the Chiefs. That that's we do that, and what's going to happen? We're going to get blown out. So stick with what we do and see if we can come back.
All right, more with Danny Klinkscale. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Don't forget, Easton Roofing is hiring. Go to eastonroofing.com. It is a great, great company to work for, including 401k and guaranteed work all winter long. They're hiring in sales, on the roof, in all departments. Right now, as Easton Roofing, one of the fastest-growing companies in Kansas City, get right now to eastonroofing.com or just pick up the phone and call them at 913-257-5426.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Joe and his crew ready to add you. They do a great job. Listen, if you need work on your roof, even at cold weathers, Easton Roofing has you covered. Go to eastonroofing.com. But if you are in the roofing business or if you'd like to get into the roofing business, Easton Roofing is hiring. You can call them right now at 913-257-5426. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. Hiring for all positions. Everything you can think of. So call Joe and the crew and get on board with one of Kansas City's fastest growing companies. Joe and his crew do an unbelievable job and things that you can understand that would be quite a bonus. 401k match, health insurance, above scale pay, guaranteed work all winter. Nobody's worked on opening day because
they all go to opening day. That's right.
One of the great fun things that goes on at Easton Roofing, looking for a couple of project managers, 2 sales folks, office administrator, a couple of repair techs. They are hiring right now at Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. So, Danny, how's the game play out? Who wins?
I'm going to lean toward the fact that this isn't much of a game. That would be my thought, that the Chiefs are going to be really primed and ready. They're going to win the toss like they always do. The defense is going to sack Deshaun Watson in the first series. They're going to score. They're going to be up 10-0. Houston won't be able to run the football. That's where I'm leaning. Getting the flow of any football game is a little difficult. The game's a game in the middle of the second quarter. I think it'll be a game all day. Let's put it that way.
At one point I said...
And I don't think it's going to be a game in the middle of the second quarter.
The Texans, won by 1 score in the last game, and what can you say actually went the Chiefs' way? And then I went back and looked at it, and Fuller did drop some big
he sure did.
passes. So there were some things that did go their way.
They missed a field goal and an extra point.
The amount of talent that's going to be back for the Chiefs is glaring. And they were 12-4 playing without guys most of the year. They're really good.
Yeah, so I guess the other side of it is it's an unmitigated disaster if they lose the game.
Yes, it is. I will against the Texans. I agree with you. This will be a disaster if they lose this game. I agree wholeheartedly with it. Neither one of us thinks it's going to happen.
No.
We'll see. Danny, great stuff as always. DannyClinkscale.com.
That's right. Good stuff always.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.